The solicitor's pen scratched across parchment 3 signatures. Mine, his, the witness. I stared at the document that dissolved 15 years of marriage in under 2 minutes. My hand didn't shake. That surprised me. After all this time being invisible, I thought I'd tremble when I finally became real enough to leave. "The Duke will be informed upon his return from London," the solicitor said, not meeting my eyes. "He won't notice I'm gone for at least a month." I stood, smoothing skirts that suddenly felt suffocating. "He never does." The solicitor's face twitched. Pity. I'd seen that look from servants, neighbors, his own mother. Poor Duchess Rosalind, married to a ghost who walked and breathed but never saw her. I should have felt something: relief, rage, grief for the girl who'd believed in love at 17. Instead, I felt the way I'd felt every day for 15 years, hollow. The door to my prison was finally open. I walked through it, carrying nothing but the clothes on my back and the weight of a loss he'd never know about, a loss that happened while he was busy protecting me from a truth I deserved to hear. By the time he realized I was gone, it would already be too late for both of us. Have you ever been invisible to someone who was supposed to see you? She lived that for 15 years. My returning family, you already know we don't tell soft stories here. And if you're new, subscribe now, because once you see what happens when she finally walks away, you'll wish you found this channel sooner. Now, let's get in. The morning I married Duke Theodore Ashford, my mother wept, not from joy. "You'll have everything," she whispered, adjusting my veil with trembling fingers. "Title, wealth, position." Everything except him, I thought. But I was 17 and believed love could be built like a house, brick by brick, with enough patience and care. Theodore stood at the altar in his military dress uniform, medals gleaming. 28 years old, a war hero, devastatingly handsome with dark hair and eyes like winter storms. He looked at me exactly once during the ceremony, through me, really, as if I were glass. But his hand, when it took mine for the vows, it shook, just once. A tremor so brief I thought I'd imagined it. "I do," he said, flat, dutiful. The church erupted in applause. I smiled until my face ached. That night, he came to my chambers still wearing his military uniform, stood 3 feet from the bed as if approaching a stranger. "I'll provide for you," he said. "You'll want for nothing materially. The household staff will attend to your needs. I have business in London that requires my attention most months." "When will you return?" My voice sounded small. "When duty requires it." He turned to leave, stopped at the door. His hand gripped the frame so hard his knuckles went white. For one heartbeat, I thought he'd turn around, say something real, something true. He didn't look back. He left. Didn't touch me, didn't kiss me, didn't even say goodnight. I waited in that massive bed wearing the silk nightgown my mother had embroidered with tiny roses. Waited until the fire died. Waited until dawn crept through the windows. He never came back. 3 months into my marriage, I still hadn't seen my husband's face in daylight. He existed in fragments, boot steps in distant hallways, his signature on household accounts, the faint smell of tobacco and leather that lingered in his study after he'd locked himself inside for hours. The servants moved around me like I was furniture, pretty, expensive, useless. "His Grace prefers his breakfast at 7, the housekeeper informed me. "I'll join him." Her face went carefully blank. "His Grace takes meals alone, Your Grace." "Every meal?" "Every meal." I laughed. The sound shattered in the empty morning room. Mrs. Halloway's expression softened.
The previous duchess, his mother, she learned not to take it personally. How long did that take? 30 years. The air left my lungs. 30? His Grace's father was much the same, kept the late Duke at arm's length their entire marriage. Some say it's the Ashford curse. They love too fiercely, so they love from a distance, terrified of loss. She caught herself. Forgive me, Your Grace, I shouldn't speak of family matters. But the words had already carved themselves into my bones. I was 18 years old, and my life sentence had just been pronounced. I tried everything. Left notes on his desk. He never responded. Waited in the library I knew he visited. He saw me and turned around.
Knocked on his study door. "I'm occupied," he called through the wood. I learned his favorite foods and requested them for dinner. He ate in his rooms. On our first anniversary, I wore my wedding dress and waited in the drawing room from breakfast until midnight. He was in London, hadn't even remembered the date. The staff found me there at dawn, still waiting, the dress wrinkled beyond repair. No one said anything. They didn't have to. But the years didn't just pass. They carved me hollow. Year 3, I stopped embroidering his name on handkerchiefs, started embroidering mine just to remember I still existed. Year 5, I hired a pianist to play in the music room every evening. Something, anything to fill the silence. Theodore came home once during those months. I heard him stop outside the music room door, stand there for 5 full minutes while I played. I held my breath, waiting for the door to open. It never did. His footsteps finally echoed away. A week later, the butler informed me the piano had been moved to the East Wing music room, Your Grace. His Grace felt the acoustics would be superior there. The East Wing, the abandoned wing, where no one would hear me play, where he wouldn't have to listen to proof I was alive. Year 7, I shattered a crystal vase in the hallway outside his study, hurled it against the marble floor just to see if the sound would make him open the door, make him come running, make him do anything. The door stayed closed. A maid cleaned it up within minutes, her eyes carefully averted. Theodore walked past the spot an hour later, boots crunching on glass dust the maid had missed. He stopped, stared down at the glittering fragments, his hands clenched into fists. Then he stepped over them and kept walking. He didn't even glance at me standing there, watching him choose silence over me once again. Year 10, I became a ghost in my own house, drifted through rooms that echoed with my footsteps and no one else's. The servants spoke in whispers. The halls stretched longer every day. I stopped looking in mirrors, couldn't bear to see how transparent I'd become. But year 15, everything changed. It started with blood. I woke before dawn with cramping so severe I couldn't breathe, wetness between my thighs, my nightgown soaked through. The doctor came, examined me behind closed doors while a maid held my hand and wept quietly. "I'm very sorry, Your Grace," he said. "The child is lost." "Child?" My voice broke on the word. "You were perhaps 8 weeks along. Did you not know?" I hadn't known, hadn't realized. My cycles had always been unpredictable, and Theodore and I had been together exactly twice in 15 years, both times when he'd returned from London late, drunk and seemingly mistaking me for someone else in the dark. Both times he'd whispered a name against my neck that wasn't mine. Rosalind, he'd breathed, as if the real me was someone he could only touch in darkness and dreams. Both times he'd left before morning without a word. Does the Duke need to be informed?" I asked. The doctor's expression turned carefully neutral. "That is your decision, Your Grace." I thought about it, tried to imagine telling Theodore, pictured him receiving the news with that same distant politeness he showed when the butler reported on household expenses. "No," I said, "don't tell him." What did it matter? You couldn't grieve what you'd never had. The bleeding stopped after 3 days. My heart kept bleeding for 3 months. I moved through the manor like a shade, ate because the body required it, slept because consciousness was unbearable, spoke only when absolutely necessary. Theodore came home exactly once during my recovery. Stayed 2 days. I heard him arrive, heard him in his study, heard him leave. He never asked for me, never sent for me, never once knocked on my door. On the second day, I stood in the hallway outside his study, hand raised to knock, gathering 15 years of courage to finally demand he look at me, see me, acknowledge I existed. The door opened. He walked past me, through me, around me. I was standing directly in his path. He adjusted his trajectory as if avoiding a piece of furniture, never once lifting his eyes. But I saw it, the way his jaw clenched, the way his hands fisted at his sides, the way his breathing stuttered for just 1 second as he passed, as if it physically hurt him not to look, as if he was fighting himself with every step. "Your Grace," I whispered. He froze, shoulders rigid as stone. For 3 heartbeats he stood there. Then he kept walking. Something inside me didn't break. It disintegrated, turned to ash, blew away. I left 3 weeks later. No dramatic confrontation, no tearful goodbye, no note. Just walked out of Ashford Hall with 1 trunk, a small inheritance from my grandmother that was mine alone, and the name of a solicitor who specialized in legal separations. The housekeeper found me at the door. "Your Grace?" "I won't be returning, Mrs. Holloway." She didn't ask why. Her eyes were wet. "Where will you go?" "London. I have a cousin there." Shall I inform His Grace when he returns?" I thought about Theodore. 15 years of absence, 15 years of silence, 15 years of walking past me like I was empty air. 15 years of trembling hands he hid, of doors he stood behind but never opened, of my name he whispered in the dark to someone else's face. "Tell him whatever you like," I said. "It won't matter. He won't notice I'm gone." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "If I may, Your Grace, you deserve better than this." I know. I finally know. The carriage pulled away from Ashford Hall. I didn't look back. There was nothing there worth seeing. I had no idea that 3 days later, Theodore Ashford would tear London apart looking for his wife. I had no idea that the man who'd ignored me for 15 years was about to destroy everything to bring me back. I had no idea that I was never invisible. I was the only thing he'd ever been terrified to see. The London townhouse smelled like freedom, dust and old books and possibility. My cousin Vivian met me at the door, her face a mixture of shock and fury when I told her everything. Not the miscarriage, I couldn't speak that aloud yet, but the 15 years of silence, the ghost marriage, the invisible life. "That bastard," she breathed. "Rosalind, you should have come sooner." I kept thinking he'd change, that I'd done something wrong, that if I just tried harder. "No," she gripped my hands. "No, you deserve to be loved from the first day, not earned, not eventually, from the beginning." I lived those words like a religion for the next 2 months. Found work embroidering for a dressmaker, small income, but mine. Rented a modest room, ate when I was hungry, slept when I was tired, spoke to people who actually answered. I started to remember what my own voice sounded like. Then the letters began arriving. The first came 3 weeks after I'd left, forwarded by Mrs. Holloway despite my instructions. Cream parchment, his family seal pressed into black wax, my name written in handwriting I'd only ever seen on household accounts. I burned it unopened. The second came 2 days later, then a third, then one every single day. I burned them all. "What if they're important?" Vivian asked, watching another letter curl into ash. "Nothing he has to say is important anymore."
but my hands shook when I held the match. On day 43, a different letter arrived. Not his handwriting, Mrs. Halloway's. Your Grace, forgive my presumption in writing. His Grace has not been well since your departure. He arrived home to find you gone, and I have served this family for 30 years. I have never seen him like this. He tore apart your chambers looking for a note, shredded every curtain when he found none, broke every mirror in the house with his bare hands. The staff heard him screaming your name until his voice gave out. He rides to London every day, returns every night having found nothing, will not eat, will not sleep, stands in the doorway of your empty room for hours. I do not write to manipulate you, Your Grace. You owe him nothing. But I thought you should know, whatever his reasons for his behavior these 15 years, your absence is destroying him. He keeps asking why you didn't leave a note, why you left without a word. She was always here, he said last night, his voice broken. She was always here, and I... He couldn't finish the sentence. Respectfully, Mrs. Halloway. The letter trembled in my hands. Lies. Had to be lies. The man who'd ignored me for 15 years didn't break mirrors, didn't scream my name, didn't stand in empty doorways mourning. But what if it wasn't lies? I went back 3 days later. Not to stay, just to retrieve some books I'd left behind, just to sign final documents, just to... I didn't know what I was doing. The carriage stopped at Ashford Hall's gates. My heart hammered against my ribs. The gardens looked wrong, overgrown, wild, as if no one had tended them in weeks. Windows that should have been lit stood dark. The fountain had stopped running. Mrs. Halloway opened the door, her face crumpled with relief. Your Grace! Oh, thank God! I'm not staying, I just need... He's in the study. He's been there for 2 days. Won't open the door, won't answer. I heard glass breaking an hour ago. Her voice dropped. And his brother arrived yesterday, Lord Edmund. He's brought solicitors. Ice flooded my veins. Why? He's petitioning to have His Grace declared unfit, claims the title should pass to him if His Grace cannot fulfill his duties. Her eyes were desperate. Using your departure as proof of his instability. Theodore's younger brother. Edmund had always coveted the title, the estate, everything Theodore had inherited. Where is Edmund now? In the drawing room, waiting for the magistrate. My feet moved before my mind agreed. Down the familiar hallway, past the spot where I'd shattered the vase 7 years ago, to his study door. I raised my hand to knock. Stopped. Then I heard it. Through the door, a sound that turned my blood to ice. Sobbing. Raw, broken, agonized sobbing.
Rosalind. My name. Choked out like a prayer. God, Rosalind, please. If you were Rosalind, would you have left sooner or stayed longer hoping he'd finally see you? Tell me in the comments. My hand touched the door handle. It wasn't locked. I pushed it open. The study was destroyed. Books scattered, desk overturned, and Theodore. He knelt in the center of the chaos, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. His hair wild, his face unshaven, his hands bleeding from broken glass he'd crawled through. He looked up. Our eyes met for the first time in 15 years. Actually met, actually saw. The expression on his face. Devastation. Relief, terror, love so desperate and fierce it stole my breath. You're here, he whispered. You're actually here. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't reconcile this shattered man with the cold stranger who'd walked past me for 15 years. Why? The word ripped from my throat. Why did you ignore me? Why did you act like I didn't exist? He stood slowly. Swayed, looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Because, his voice broke, if I let myself look at you, if I let myself love you the way I wanted to, I would have destroyed you. What? I'm dying, Rosalind. The words fell like stones. I've been dying since before we married.
The doctors gave me 5 years. That was 15 years ago, but every day could be my last. Every single day. The world tilted. My father did the same to my mother, kept her at a distance for 33 years because he knew his heart was weak. He thought he was protecting her from grief. Theodore's laugh was broken. My father died in his sleep when I was 10. My mother, she didn't cry at his funeral. She stood there like stone and said, "I never knew him. I was married to a stranger for 33 years. His hands clenched. I swore I wouldn't do that to you. But then the doctors gave me the same diagnosis my father had. 5 years, maybe less. So I married you for the title, for the estate, to give you security when I was gone. I thought I'd die quickly and you'd be free, a wealthy widow, young enough to find real love." Tears streamed down his face. But I didn't die, and every year I survived was another year of falling more in love with you, another year of wanting you so badly I couldn't breathe, another year of knowing that if I let myself have you, truly have you, losing me would destroy you. He took one shaking breath. So I became my father. I stayed away. I ignored you. I pretended you didn't exist because it was the only way to protect your heart from breaking when mine finally stopped. But I failed anyway. I hurt you worse than dying ever could have. Is loving someone from a distance still love, or just another way to break them? Drop your thoughts below. Footsteps in the hallway. Edmund's voice, sharp and triumphant. "The magistrate has arrived. Let's end this farce." Theodore's face went pale. "He's going to take everything, the title, the estate, and he'll contest the marriage settlement. You will have nothing." "I don't care about the estate. Rosalind, I care about the truth. I'm done letting other people write my story."
I walked into the drawing room like a duchess. Edmund stood by the fireplace, 2 solicitors flanking him. The magistrate, Lord Pemberton, sat in my favorite chair. "Gentlemen," I said, "I'm told there's a question about my husband's fitness to hold his title." Edmund's eyes narrowed. "Rosalind, how convenient. You've been missing for 2 months. I've been in London, at my cousin's residence, recovering from a miscarriage that I suffered alone because my husband was honoring a foolish promise to a dead man." Silence crashed through the room. "Your Grace," Lord Pemberton stood, "I was told you'd abandoned your husband. I left a marriage where I was invisible. I returned because I discovered my husband isn't cruel or indifferent. He's an idiot." I looked at Edmund. "But he's fit. He's been managing this estate flawlessly for 15 years. Every tenant fed, every debt paid, every contract honored. His only crime is loving me so much he thought distance was kindness." "That's not," Edmund started. "You want this title because you've gambled away your inheritance," I cut him off. "I've seen the reports. You owe £40,000 to various creditors. You need Ashford's wealth to save yourself." Edmund's face went purple. "You have no proof. I have letters. 3 years' worth, between you and your creditors. My husband keeps excellent records." I didn't, but Edmund didn't know that. "Would you like me to read them aloud to the magistrate?" Lord Pemberton's expression hardened. "Lord Edmund, is this true?" This isn't about my finances." "It's exactly about your finances." Theodore's voice came from the doorway. He'd cleaned up, shaved, changed clothes. He looked like the duke he was. "You've been waiting for me to die or fail for 15 years. Neither is happening today." He crossed to stand beside me, took my hand. His palm was warm, solid, real. "My wife is correct. I'm an idiot. I tried to protect her from pain and instead caused it. But I'm not unfit. I'm just a man who's been terrified of dying and leaving behind the only person I've ever loved." He looked at Lord Pemberton. "My heart is weak. It could fail tomorrow, but that's been true for 15 years, and I'm still here, still managing my responsibilities, still capable of holding my title.
And now, I added, he has a wife who knows the truth and chooses to face the future with him, whatever that future holds. Lord Pemberton studied us. You're reconciled, then? We're trying to be, I said honestly. We have 15 years of silence to overcome, but we're facing it together. Lord Edmund, the magistrate stood. I find no evidence of unfitness. The petition is denied. He looked at Theodore. But I suggest you put your affairs in order. A man with your condition should have clear succession plans. I will, Theodore said quietly. Thank you, Lord Pemberton. Edmund stormed out, his solicitors scrambling after him. When the room cleared, Theodore turned to me. You came back. I came back angry. I know. I'm still angry. You should be. I took a breath. 15 years, Theodore. You had 15 years to tell me the truth. I know. 15 years I thought I was worthless, unlovable, invisible. I know. His voice shattered. Rosalind, I know, and I lost our child. The words came out sharp, clean. 3 months ago, I was 8 weeks pregnant. I miscarried alone in our bed while you were in London pretending I didn't exist. The sound he made wasn't human. Theodore staggered to a chair, sat, buried his face in his hands. So don't stand there and tell me you stayed away to save me pain. Your distance didn't protect me. It annihilated me. He wept, great shaking sobs that echoed in the empty room. I should have left, should have walked out, should have let him drown in the consequences of his choices. Instead, I knelt before him, took his hands in mine.
I hate you, I whispered. I know. I hate that you made choices for me, that you decided what I could handle, that you stole 15 years we could have spent actually living. I know. But I also know, my voice broke, I also know that you're the biggest fool I've ever met, and that I've spent 15 years loving a ghost, and that you're dying, and I'm furious, and we've wasted so much time, and Rosalind, how long? I demanded. How long do you actually have? The doctors don't know. My heart, it's weak. Could be days, could be decades. They can't explain why I've lasted this long. I laughed through tears. Then we're both idiots. You for leaving, me for staying invisible instead of forcing you to see me. His hands, trembling, bleeding, came up to cup my face. I see you now. God help me, I've always seen you. You were the first thing I saw every morning and the last thing I thought about every night. Do you know how many times I stood outside your door? How many letters I wrote and burned? How many times I almost... Then why didn't you? Because I'm a coward. Simple, honest, broken. I was terrified that if I had you, truly had you, I wouldn't be strong enough to let you go when death came, and you deserved better than watching me die. That wasn't your choice to make. I know that now. We knelt there, foreheads pressed together, breathing each other's air. I have conditions, I finally said. Anything. No more distance, no more protection. If you're dying tomorrow or in 50 years, we face it together. Yes. No more locked doors, no more silence. You talk to me every day about everything. Yes. And Theodore? I pulled back to meet his eyes. If you ever try to make decisions for my own good without asking me first, I will leave again, and I won't come back. I understand. Do you? Because I mean it. I'm not 17 anymore. I'm not that girl who believed love meant patience and silence. I'm a woman who knows her worth, and my worth is not in waiting quietly to be noticed. I know. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips, gentle, reverent. God, I know. You're magnificent. You always were. I was just too much of a fool to let you know I saw it. The estate physician confirmed Theodore's condition the next week. Weak heart?
No cure. Could fail tomorrow or in 30 years. We'd live every day uncertain. Well, I said, gripping Theodore's hand, then we'd better not waste them. We didn't. We talked, hours every day, about the war that broke something inside him, about my lonely years, about the child we'd lost, about his father's cold example and the pattern he'd tried to break but only repeated, about the future we might not have. We planted a garden together, for the baby, white roses. Theodore wept while digging, and I held him, and we grieved together the way we should have done months ago. We made love like people who understood that every touch could be the last, desperate, tender, real. We fought, loudly, passionately, about everything we'd buried for 15 years. He called me stubborn. I called him impossible. We both meant, I love you. And we laughed. God, we laughed. 5 years later, I stood in that same garden, roses blooming wild. Theodore sat on the bench, our daughter asleep on his chest, 2 years old, named Hope, born screaming and perfect. The doctors said the pregnancy would kill him, the stress, the fear, the sleepless nights. They were wrong about everything else, too. What are you thinking? Theodore asked, catching me staring. That we're idiots who almost threw this away. Every single day, I wake up grateful you came back, grateful you forced me to stop being my father. I'm still angry sometimes about the wasted years. Good, you should be. I deserve your anger. But I'm also grateful. I sat beside them, our daughter's tiny hand curled around my finger. Because now I know love isn't patient silence. It's fierce. It's showing up. It's fighting. It's choosing someone every single day, even when you're terrified. Theodore took my hand. 15 years of distance in that touch. 5 years of deliberate, fierce closeness. I love you, he said, like he'd said every single day since I came back. I know, I answered, like I'd answered every single time. Our daughter stirred, opened eyes like winter storms, her father's eyes, looked at me and smiled. Visible, seen, loved. Finally loved. And whatever time we had left, days or decades, we'd face it together. No more distance, no more silence, no more protecting each other from life. Just love, messy and fierce and imperfect and real. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one, so click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.